and welcome to the upper deck. I'm Lynn, and right next to me is Ciarra, and we got a lot to say this morning, so hope you all got your coffee with you. What's going on, Ciarra?
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Football Sunday. Happy Bills Mafia Day.
Woo!
I know that's where your mind is going to be at the rest of the day once we hop off of here. So, but yeah, we got a lot to talk about today. So, what's on your mind today?
Well, so top of my mind is this guy right here. I wanted to kick off the show giving mad respect and props and all the woohoos and yahoos for our guy CC getting inducted into Hall of Fame. And if there was ever any doubt, going in as a Yankee, and his words here are just so classy, and he's just he is still, if you're following him on X, he's still glowing and saying, I still can't believe it. And even the day of, just nervously tweeting all day. And so it couldn't have been a better pick. And I'm stuttering because it's more than just the player. I would like to think that it's still true, although we're going to get into a little bit about the decisions and how the voting goes. But this is a man who has character beyond. And everyone that's well aware of CC's journey from beginning to end, he had some obstacles to face and overcome, life-changing obstacles. And he did overcome them, and we all remember how he ended at the top of his game, and that was after a lot of things that he had to take care of. He took care of them, and all these years later you see that he's still taking care of them. What do you think about the induction, Cece? Ciarra.
So funny. So actually my whole childhood I was called Cece, so I have a special soft spot in my heart for him just because we share a name. I'm not afraid to admit that I'm chronically online. So there was a lot of discourse leading up to the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and a lot of non-Yankees fans do not believe CC Sabathia should be in the Hall of Fame. And what I have to say to that is absolutely ridiculous. So there are a few milestones in baseball that if you hit them, you're almost guaranteed to be in the HOF. For position players, 500 home runs is typically that mark, or 3,000 hits, because those are difficult things to get to. For a pitcher, if you can reach 3,000 plus strikeouts, which CC did, I believe he ended with 3,093 to be exact. That is Hall of Fame material, right? Not to mention, Sabathia ended with a career ERA of a 3.74. Before he came to the Yankees, he was a thrower. The Yankees turned this man into a pitcher, and he was a huge part of 2009 and just everything going on. But not to mention, CC Sabathia is the teammate that I would want, right? He is the guy that's going to give up his bonus to throw down with somebody because you don't mess with his teammates. And that is the type of guy that I would always want to have on my team, because that's a teammate. I think it was the right decision for him to get into the Hall of Fame. I'm glad he made it on his first ballot. To all the non-Yankees fans who disagree with that, you can shut your mouths because you don't know what you're talking about. But with that being said, there are a few other people who didn't make the Hall of Fame that I disagree with. I mean, I agree with the three that got in. Obviously, Suzuki. I don't understand how Suzuki wasn't 100% vote. Whoever the idiot is who didn't vote for him clearly doesn't watch baseball, or they did it just out of spite because they never vote 100%, right? They're that person. But I agree with all three men that got into the Hall of Fame. I just wish there was a few other names that came up with them.
Right. And we'll get into those names. And, Suzuki is I believe going in as a Mariner, and that's right. I mean, we like to claim him too because he was just, such a popular player, such a great player during our years that we remember, that we hope we can come back and live again someday, maybe this season. And just an overall human being that is just so good and pure. And what's really also unique about Ichiro is that he was relatively old when he came over from Japan. I believe that he came over at 27 as a prospect, at 27 years of age. So, um, accomplishing what he accomplished when people are already getting side-eyed at that age when it comes to trades, is another thing about him that and just what an amazing human being. And I like when I see players with character as well as the numbers to back it up that get inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I think that's what's leading us into where you were about to go.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the Hall of Fame, it's first of all, before I go down the A-Rod route, because I know I'm going to upset a few people when I talk about this, let's talk about Carlos Beltran, okay? He just missed it. He got 70.3%. So you have to receive 75% vote to get in. So he missed it by 5%, right? That's insane. And the fact of the matter is they didn't vote him in based off of the Astro scandal, which I don't think is fair. Now, keep in mind, I'm upset about the Astro scandal. It hurt the Yankees. It hurt other people. But there's other players who aren't taking as much of a beating as he is. Altuve gets a pass. Bregman gets a pass. They got to keep their World Series rings, right?
Right.
Why can't Beltran be in the Hall of Fame based on his numbers? Especially when he was so close on the voting, right? Like there was no reason for him not to go in. He should go in. He should go in as a Met. I really hope to see him in there next season because in my opinion, he deserves it. 20 seasons in the MLB, and that one thing is what's going to keep you out. That's insane to me. That's absolutely insane.
Absolutely insane. And also, yep, and Fortrain, I agree with you. Andrew Jones, and he still has some time too. So I hope eventually, I would assume with Beltran getting so close that he will be with the next class. But these writers and the way in which they select their votes is highly sus to me because it really just seems to be, and first of all, let me just say, whoever that one guy is that did not vote for Suzuki, and a lot of people on Twitter are saying this, and I think it's a good theory, it's probably the same jerk head, I almost said something else, that didn't vote for Jeter. But it's a subjective selection. I think something this important should be a normative rubric or scale or something that they use to decide to back up the selections. Because per your point about Beltran, and I know that was an entirely different scandal and era, why is Poppy there? Why is Manny Ramirez there? There are people with the whole steroid thing that got in, and A-Rod is like sitting, to the side, approaching. His chances are less and less. I think he has 3 years left at the most. And so, and you when you want to compare, and I know my girl Ciarra right here can give you the numbers with it, and she will. A-Rod really should have been in a long time ago.
Yeah, so you can be on the ballot for 10 consecutive times as long as you receive a certain percentage of vote. If you receive less than 5, I believe, you're just automatically kicked off. But Alex Rodriguez, listen, let me be clear, friends. I understand what he did was wrong. I do. But I also think we need to take a few steps back and look at the way that the MLB treated A-Rod compared to the other guys using steroids, right? How many guys were using steroids at the same time as A-Rod that never went down for it? They sent somebody to the Dominican Republic to try to catch A-Rod in the act. Like, that is insane to me. And the fact of the matter is, there is no 2009 World Series without Alex Rodriguez. Now, I realize non-Yankees fans, that means absolutely nothing to them. But as a Yankees fan, like, that is the one World Series I remember, guys. So, like, it means a lot to me. But also, not for nothing, A-Rod is 4 home runs away from 700 home runs. I literally just said 500 home runs is typically the marker for getting into the Hall of Fame.
That's right.
4 away from 700. Like, that is not an easy feat to do. And you know what? Not for nothing, the steroid era, McGwire, Sosa, they saved baseball. Baseball had gotten so boring until they had that back to, that home run off they were having. Now, I wasn't alive for that, but I know it was exciting. I live in Chicago.
It was.
There's a whole shrine to Sammy Sosa at a bar across the street from Wrigley. So like, I know it was a big deal. So I'm not saying steroids are right, but even before the steroids, Alex Rodriguez was a great player. You can't take the numbers away. Steroids don't necessarily make you a better player, right? They make you a little bit stronger. They keep you a little bit healthier, but that doesn't mean you're going to necessarily go out and hit 700 home runs, 3,000 hits, blah, 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 blah. My guy A-Rod deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and I know that the fan base is split on this, but I will die on the hill that he should be there.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, even if they do a whole separate freaking class for steroid users, because if you go to Cooperstown, they have a whole area dedicated to the steroid users. So why not induct them at that point? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Because that's been the comeback about A-Rod is, well, he is there, his bat is there, his uniform is there, his numbers, so he's a museum piece. Doesn't mean that he's, it's so different from being inducted and getting that plaque. And so, and yeah, to that same vein then, Bonds and Clemens, absolutely. And FJ, that was exactly my point. Poppy's in the Hall of Fame because he made nice with the press, and A-Rod really didn't. And look what happened, right?
So that grinds my gears, right? Because I agree, A-Rod was such a jerk during that time. But what I was young, so like to me, I didn't really think too much into it. But now looking back, I probably would have been a jerk too, because there were so many people on that list doing steroids at that time, but he was their number one target because he was one of the biggest names in baseball. And now you fast forward to 2025, and we have the biggest name in baseball, Shohei Ohtani, with a much bigger scandal going on that just gets swept under the rug by MLB. So the MLB picks and chooses the players that they're going to go after, the players that they're going to make, pay their debts for what they've done. And it's kind of BS in my opinion. Like there needs to be a set of standard rules for everybody. You can't pick and choose which players are going to be in trouble and when. Because I mean, look at Andy Pettitte, for example, right? Everyone knows that he did steroids, but he was never suspended for it. And because he never got suspended, he has a better chance of being inducted than A-Rod, even though they both took them.
Right.
I don't know. To me, that's just wild.
Right. Yeah. And that also points the needle towards favoritism and who was the nice guy and who was the jerk. I don't think there should be anything on the scorecard when you're voting about nice. It should be all about the numbers. So, got to take a moment here to say happy birthday to our friend.
Happy birthday, CT.
Happy birthday, CT. Everyone in the chat, give CT some love. He's turning 46 today. Oh, I remember 46. Yeah, it's going to be a good year for you. That was a pretty good year. Enjoy it, CT. Thanks for being here on your birthday and spending some time with us. Yeah, so, and I just want to just say a quick hello to everybody. And I'm going to take roll call, and then we're going to pivot into the topic. So, Lori, you got the attendance award this morning, but probably because CT slept in for his birthday at this point. And let's see, we got Jonathan. Hey, good morning, Sean. And by the way, when you see Pinstripe Chronicles commenting, that's Ciarra. That's not Uncle Tats, or she's not even pretending to be Uncle Tats. So just so you know,
I say besties.
Yeah, do you see Uncle Tats saying, "Hey, besties"? I don't think so. John the Beagle Dad, CWE. What's up, Mazda 4 Train Express? Hey, if you don't follow 4 Train Express, make sure to check out his shows right on YouTube. Had a blast with 4 Train and Donald and Jason from 161st River Ave the other night. Jordan, Great to see you. We got Dev, John, Jordan, FJ. Already highlighted you. Davey, hey, thanks for being here. Good to see a new face in the chat. And Sean, we got you. Great to see you. Lou. And let's see. I think that's the and if I didn't say Jordan, I think I did. I don't want to leave anyone out. That would be a terrible thing. But before we pivot to the topics, and before we jump off the Hall of Fame, I want to put up what our new friend Davey said earlier. So, um, how is CC going to the Hall of Fame as a Yankee? Um, so to me, Davey, and this is just my opinion, I think it's because um, it was really the time in his career where he could have gone one direction or another. And the Yankees, becoming a Yankee, like it happens for so many players, was transformative for him. And I think it was also the way that the Yankees treated him, because as I alluded to at the top of the show, he had some stuff going on, some personal stuff going on that was impacting the game. And the Yankees gave him, the grace and the support to get through that, and that paid off in dividends.
And
Go ahead.
if I'm not mistaken, I believe he pitched 2 more seasons for the Yankees than he did for the Indians. I believe he was in Cleveland for 8 seasons, in Milwaukee for 1, and then in New York for, I want to say, 10.
Yeah, and I felt a little confident about saying it. I thought so. So you think so too. The chat would correct us if that was wrong. So, and that's usually how it goes. It's not necessarily how it has to go, but it usually goes by the number of years, the length of time. But I also meant what I said about, I really feel like the Yankees are in his heart. You could tell from his statement up there. So, and thank God, it's good to have another Yankee right there representing.
I do want to propose a question before we move off the Hall of Fame topic, if that's okay.
Sure.
So I'm sure by now everyone has seen, the scandal surrounding Mariano Rivera and his wife. So my question is, if this all comes out and this is true, does the MLB, and I don't think this has ever happened in the past, so this is just a hypothetical question, does the MLB revoke Rivera from the Hall of Fame based on this scandal, or do they leave him be because it happened after the fact?
Well, we talked about this a bit on For Trading Express's show the other night, and I was a little bit surprised when Jason said that absolutely it would be revoked. And so it just seems to me that for all the things I just said about what the qualities of an inductee should represent, and character being one of them, I think that would be the case. I can't think of anyone. That would be a great thing to research, and I'm going to, if anyone's been kicked out before. That'd be a great topic. We could report back next week, unless someone in the chat knows. Yeah, and yeah, Fortrain is saying, yeah, they have to revoke him. And Dev is saying, I think MLB done nothing to him. Lou's agreeing, guilty. Yeah, and absolutely. Yep, not guilty until proven innocent. MLB would need to revoke him pending.
Yeah, so I'm torn on this. So I did a lot of research on this subject, and I will leave my opinions out of it, whether I believe he's guilty or not. However, if he is proven guilty, I don't think the MLB pulls him out, because I don't think the MLB is in the business of doing that. Now, do I agree that they should pull him out because it's a very bad look? I just don't think they will. I think at that point he's there for life, and it's just it's going to be a black mark in the Hall of Fame, unfortunately. It was really, when I was reading the articles, it really broke my heart, because you'd never want to see someone that you grew up idolizing come out in this light and look this way, right? So, but hopefully all the facts come out soon, and everybody gets their justice, and whatever happens, I guess, with the MLB.
Right. And it would be heartbreaking, but like you said, and I can't stress it enough, and in a statement from their spokesperson, they were, adamant about their innocence in this, and, looking forward to the outcome of the court case. Um, it just doesn't connect with what we know about Mariano Rivera. And also, the Riveras live not far from where I live, and so I have local friends that have, bumped into them in the community, um, at Stop and Shop, for crying out loud, and, just talked about, how lovely they were, how friendly they, like they just seem like great people. They've always seemed like great people, but so have a lot of others, that then end up
I was gonna
disappointing you. And
say
so
John Wayne Gacy was a community clown and very well known. So
exactly,
it's hard because the nicest people can be the worst. And I'm not saying the Riveras are guilty, guys, so please do not crucify me. But the nicest people can be the worst people behind closed doors.
Absolutely, because people like that are master manipulators. But and there's other major league players that have gone through this, over time, and there are still players that have, not only been accused but found to be abusers who are still playing. And I'm not even going to go down that path, because then I won't ever get off that path.
Same.
And we have things to talk about. I do want to say hey to Jonna, my previous co-host. So good to see you here, Jonna. All right, so let's pivot to some hot topics, shall we?
Let's do it.
So, as CC told us, right there behind me, 13 days till pitchers and catchers as of today. So, and that means that, probably about 26-ish days before the first spring training game. So it's so close. So good news coming there. So yeah, Ciarra, why don't you kick off the hot topics?
Yeah, so pitchers and catchers for the Yankees are reporting on February 11th. I love baseball because it feels like we have a very short period of time where we don't have it at all. Whereas like other sports, it's so, football, it takes forever to come back, right? Anyway, so the Yankees pitchers and catchers are reporting February 11th, and they have picked up a few randos off of the waivers in the past few days. The first guy that they picked up is, I'm probably going to butcher his first name, Roansy Contreras. So interesting enough, we picked him up off the waivers from Baltimore. He did not play for Baltimore in 2024. He actually split his time between Pittsburgh and LA, but since October has gone through 4 waiver transfers, ours being the 4th. Poor guy can't find a home for some reason. He's a right-handed pitcher. He's 25. So he went through, in October, he was claimed off waivers from the Rangers, December, the Reds, then the Orioles, and now us. So, honorable mention though, homeboy was a part of the Yankees farm system back in the day. We traded him to Pittsburgh in 2021 with the trade where we received Jameson Taillon. So obviously that trade worked out for us for the most part.
Yeah.
The guy is still only 25 years old, so he could be a Matt Blake project. I mean, with pitchers and catchers reporting, they have to see what options they have. But I don't know why we haven't picked up a left-hander, because the second rando that we picked up off waivers, his name is Alan Winans. Whatever. He is from the Braves. He's 29. He didn't debut until 2023, so he was about 27 when he debuted. He's a little older. I mean, he's not like a grandpa, but he's up there. Career ERA of 7.2. And in 2024, guy had a rough season. He posted a 15.26 ERA through 2 starts. He has 8 total career starts where he's 1-4. He's got some work to do. I mean, prior to the MLB, AAA, he was actually decent. He posted a 16-10 record, 3.23 ERA, through 26 starts, 51 appearances total. So I don't know if it's one of those things where the big stage just isn't for him. But Matt Blake has his work cut out for him. And this is the one thing that I actually believe in Matt Blake is fixing the random dumpster dived arms. Because, I mean, look at Tim Hill, look at Tim Meza, who I would rather see back in the bullpen, in my opinion. But that's a whole nother conversation. So, yeah, we got 2 random guys who will probably show up to pitchers and catchers as well. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and like the chat's saying, all signs point to, all right, the dumpster diving is going on. We're in the bargain bin aisle in the store again. But yet we also know, and so many of us have said it, show to show, that they're not done. Cashman made a commitment in the press, after all those big moves with Friedman, Fried and others, that we're not done. We said that we were going to improve this year, and we're not done yet. So we don't forget, and we have the receipt. So he better come up on that. So and then yes, I agree. If we get through all this and we don't start opening day with a left hand in the bullpen, when you could really go on the cheap, their favorite thing, and just bring Hill back or Meza back, there's just absolutely no excuse. It would be beyond comprehension. But let's move on down to the infield and talk about those 2 holes we have with second and third.
We've been screaming about this all off season. We either have an opening at third base or an opening at second base because Jazz can play either position. Jazz did concern me a little bit a few weeks ago or 2 weeks ago with his Twitter fingers. He made me think that maybe he knew he was getting traded and we didn't know, but he had just, went through arbitration. So that didn't make sense. I'm starting to think that his Twitter fingers were actually referring to Juan Soto. But I'll digress. With that being said, there are plenty of second and third basemen out there still, but are they anybody that we want outside of Alex Bregman? Breggy is obviously the number one, free agent on the market right now, other than Pete Alonso, but he's a first baseman. We already kind of, filled that gap for now. As far as second baseman go, we got Jorge Polanco, Brendan Rodgers, Whit Merrifield, Adam Frazier, Tony Kemp, and Nicky Lopez. None of those are sexy names. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't want any of those people playing second base for me. I would rather see Jorbit Vivas or Oswald Peraza. Third base, I am on the Breggy train. I just don't think it's going to happen at this point. But we have Breggy. We have Yohan Moncada. We have Nick Madrigal. We have Brian Anderson, Jace Peterson, and Luis Urias. Again, only person I would want to see out of that freaking group is Alex Bregman. And I'm not even, and if you look at my tweets, like from before this offseason, I'm not a Bregman fan. Like I can't stand the guy. I can't stand his face, but he's a good third baseman. And at this point, he's the only one I would take. But at this point in time, I don't see us signing anybody. Like, and the Yankees are so desperate to move Marcus Stroman's $18 million contract that nobody wants to trade with them because the entire MLB can see what they're trying to do from miles away. And you know what? How much money did we make last season? You're telling me we can't just eat this stupid $18 million contract and freaking cry about it another day? This would only be our first time going over the tax threshold if we went over, right? So suck it up, pay the penalty, and then next season move Marcus Stroman and get back under the threshold, right? Like stop being a crybaby, Hal. Like that's how I feel about it at this point.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Penny, what is the phrase? Penny wise, pound foolish.
I don't even know.
He's not the guy. He's not gonna. He is gonna use that as the excuse, and that's the issue there. And yeah, Stroman is gonna be an albatross around the neck. But But what we need to think about is when you look at our starters, and I don't think anyone has a problem with our starters at all. But Cole has history of injuries. Rodon has history of injuries.
Fried has
Schmidt,
history.
Fried, they all have had Heel. We waited for Heel because of Tommy John surgery. So we factoring that in, why wouldn't we want a long reliever in the pen? And hang on to Stroman until at least the trade deadline, and see what happens. Because I hope that we see everyone healthy during spring training, but things have happened in spring training where the opening series where we're already down. So there is a bit of an argument. He's not the starter we want. He's not the starter we expected. And yeah, we have, like, at least me, I have some heart for him because he left money on the table to come and be a Yankee. This guy, like, this guy wants to be here. You don't just walk away from money. And so, but that's not going to be a reason that would compel anybody. So, we'll have to. Oh, Lori, this is harsh. I'll put it up though because it's funny, it rhymes. And so, and let's see what my friend John is saying. Agreed. The Yankees are a team that would have made it happen by now. We don't seem to get these late moves over the finish line. That's just it, and we're starting to see the pattern here. With the
and I 100%. I 100% agree with her. Like, the Yankees of the past, like they I feel like they would have did something, but now we're in a different time now, and I kind of hate it. You see the Dodgers deferring all of this money to put together the freaking Avengers, and we're not even willing to spend a few extra dollars because we don't want to get a tax penalty. And the problem is, we may be the best team in the American League, but you have to beat the best team in the National League to win a World Series. And when they're eating up all of the free agents and we're doing absolutely nothing, what are we doing? And you know what? When it comes to Stroman, I get why people are upset with him. I do. But, he had some issues last season with fatigue, with location, blah, blah, blah. But Stroman still has 6 pitches, and that is not something that you can teach nowadays. These younger guys who are coming up through the systems, they are not pitchers. They are throwers, right? Marcus Stroman, he's a ground ball pitcher, so he does need a better defense behind him. And you know what? I'll give it to you guys. My guy, Gleyber Torres, let Stroman down multiple times last season. So did Volpe, right? He needs a strong defense behind him. But also, Marcus Stroman would still be a good 4 or 5 pitcher in any rotation in the MLB, right? He still has under a 4 ERA for his career. It's not like he's just a garbage pitcher. And again, I said this last week, if you go back to 2023, before he got injured, the first half of the season, he was a Cy Young candidate. So if he can get over injury and fix whatever mechanical issues he had in 2024, I could see Stroman coming out in 2025 and pitching his ass off. And I hope he does. And I hope all of the Yankees fans who want the guy gone eat their words, because I hope he just has the best season he's had in a long time. He earns his contract and he moves on, because he is a good pitcher. We just haven't seen his top performance yet.
Right. And I think Lou put up earlier that, maybe some Matt Blake magic, could be happening here. We don't know how much Matt Blake has or has not worked specifically on him. And we also don't know what Stroman's been doing during the off season. Nope. So that, that's why spring training is so important. So we'll see when pitchers and catchers return, if Stroman is still around by then. And Patrick Sinclair, hey, great seeing you. I think it's your first time, so thanks for joining. Yankees are spoiled for wanting Stroman to be something he's not. Well, a lot of people think Yankees are spoiled for all sorts of reasons, but Yankee fans are also believers in the players that they have. and what we think they do bring and could improve. So that's where we're coming from on this show. And the truth of the matter is, I think if Stroman came with like the reputation of being a ground ball pitcher, and we didn't really benefit off of that. We saw that early on, and then obviously, the season didn't work out well for him. But again, so little tweaking, little like he had location and command issues up the wazoo. So, like any other guy, that's what coaches are there for. So, I still think, he has something to bring to the table. Would I trade him for a lefty reliever in the pen, and another team that's willing to eat at least part of the contract? Yes, I would, because that would make good sense in terms of filling a need we don't have. But other than that, I think that long relief guy, in the middle innings would be a good spot for him. It would have been Nestor's spot if Nestor had stayed. And for crying out loud, we kept Stroman around and put him on the roster for the World Series. And so we're gonna they had belief with him at the end of the season, and you know what? Maybe that's why he's still there, and they just don't have a plan to move him. So that's the story there. And so, and Bregman, I think a lot of people in the chat were saying that they're not going to spend the money. We just went through all of that. So I do think it's going to end up being, at this point, what we've been talking about for weeks now, that everyone seems unanimous about Jazz needing to go back to second and filling in there again. I've been agnostic about that, because I think that Jazz has been, very good at third base. And so it's really going to depend on, what the Yankees feel is the more pivotal, crucial position. We have Goldie at first base, but we only have him for a year. And so we have to think long term in terms of, first and third. The best case scenario is that they're both solid defenders, but at least one of them has to be. And so, and that's why Bregman would have been a great get. And yet, and I said would have been, maybe I know something, would be, would be a great get. But I defend Jazz's success there. And so, and from there, the other things will follow. So now, knowing what we know now, who's going to fill that hole at third? Are we going to stay within? Is it going to be a platoon sort of situation? Are we going to play with Peraza's head one more time and bring him up and have him at third? Are we going to use DJ at third, give him a shot at third? There's been so much talk about him being on the opening day, roster. So, I don't think anyone wants that, other than, the brainiacs in the front office for their, cheap reasons. But we're looking within, either with what we already have up or who will be promoting up, is the situation I think we're looking for. And so, yeah. And guys, I know, nobody wants it. Sean's bringing up Ha-Seong Kim. What do you think about, his name? We've talked about his name before.
At this point, I just don't think it would happen. He's not even going to be ready until May. But also I don't think he's on the Padres, right? There's been no talk of it. So which doesn't mean anything, right? Like anything could be happening behind closed doors. I just don't think it's a viable option at this point, but who knows? My concern is that we're going to go into the season with, and this is no shade to Waldo. We have both said we love Waldo, but my concern is that we're going to go into the season platooning Waldo and DJ and wait until the All-Star break, or the deadline to trade for somebody, and I know I'm in the minority when I say this, give Bregman the 6 years. He's 30, 29, 30. He's not old, okay? He's a proven defender. He has a proven bat. The Yankees have had a revolving door at first base, third base, and left field. And we're already going into 2026 needing a first baseman because Goldie is only a 1-year player with us. He's getting closer to 40, so I don't see the Yankees re-signing him after 2025. Great defender, right? I'm finally on board with him because of his glove, but we're already going to go into 2026 without a first baseman. Do we really need to go into 2026 without a third baseman as well? Like, I don't know what we're doing at this point. You know, the Yankees use smoke and mirrors with the Caleb Durbin situation. They hyped us up. We thought Caleb Durbin was going to be our second baseman. Glaber's gone. Caleb's going to fill the gap. And now they traded him. And I'm not against the trade that we did, right? Like, whatever. But what are we doing? Because the constant revolving door at first, third, and left is not working for me anymore. I need someone, like, I need to know going into a season, like, okay, this is my infield. This is my outfield. Let's just focus on the bullpen this time. But it just seems like we can never do that. It's always the same thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Yep. And, well, Maz's chiming in on,
Giancarlo Stanton slept with Bellinger's wife. So, like, at this point, like, I'm just saying, like, they're grown adults. And I know what Belly has said in the past about Bregman because he is Judge's friend, right? And I agree with his statements. The Astros robbed Judge of a 2019 MVP. So I'm Team Belly on that one. But that was 6 years ago. These are grown men who want to win a World Series. Like, I feel like they can move past it. And if not, well, then fine, whatever. I know the Astros have re-engaged with Breggy, and they're talking about moving little tiny Altuve out to left field because they have Isaac Paredes. So I don't really know what they're doing there. I don't think that's going to work out for them, but I'm not an Astros fan, so it doesn't affect me. I'm just saying I don't understand why we can't sign a third baseman. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I agree. I see the value there with Bregman, and I agree on the, put on your big boy pants, part of things. But the chat, I'm just looking at the chat light up. So yeah, and well, Sean really thinks that Brendan Donovan would be a good trade. And he's still out there in the wind. So who knows, that could be a possibility. So before we pivot to our next topic, and we're still on hot topics technically. Hey, AJ Minter, I got something to say to you, pal. With that cute little quote of, you can tell these Mets fans, these are truly baseball fans. They get baseball not like the other side of the town. So let me tell you something, Mr. Minter. You're going to have a long, cold winter in Yankee Stadium, Mr. Minter. We're going to call you Winter Minter. You don't know nothing about Yankee fans if you're making a remark like that. You just want to be cute at the presser when you're, now that you're brought on board with the Mets. Do a little homework. Talk about you. I would have felt so much better if you trash talked us the way we're used to, because that I wear that like a badge of honor. But to say that we don't know baseball, I challenge you to come on board and join our show. Join Train Express's show. Join our brothers from Pinstripe Chronicles on their show and say that to them. But for now, I'm saying it to you. You're gonna have a hard time coming to Yankee Stadium and really learn about the fans and what we're about. I just had to get that off my chest, because you know what? You're at your signing press conference afterwards. That's what you're going to go to. Congratulations on, clearly you're already a Met. But
yeah, I mean, not for nothing. I love that the Yankees Mets rivalry have been reignited in the last season, because for a long time it felt dead. Like, Derek Jeter literally has a famous quote saying, "To us, they were just the Mets." So that shows how dead the rivalry has been. But it seems like in the last 2 seasons, it's really kicked up again, especially now that Soto has, skipped from one side of town to the other. Also, Soto and a few other players were not at the Mets Amazing Day event thing they had yesterday because there was plane issues in the Dominican Republic. And let me tell you, if I was a Mets fan, I would have been so pissed paying $40, $50 for a ticket, and the biggest player that we signed in the offseason isn't there. And I get it. It's not Soto's fault, plane issues, whatever. But I would have been bummed. Like, that sucks. Like, you spent that money to go, see your favorite players, and Soto's not even there. Like, that's such a bummer. But to your point, AJ Minter, I really hope he can back up his words. Well, I don't, but he should hope he can back up his words when we do the Subway Series. Because from my perspective, and this is no shade to the Mets, I have a lot of Mets friends now, right? Their offseason, your team is exactly the same. You picked up Soto and you're losing Pete Alonso. So you're kind of in the same boat as Yankees at this point. Have you truly gotten better in the offseason? I guess only time will tell. And we'll see who comes out top dog in the Subway Series this season. Because last season they gave us a whipping. Okay, they ate us alive. So we got to come back for some vengeance in 2025.
100%, and that's all the time we're going to spend on Minter. So let's pivot to projections. So projections for 2025 are out, and so let's start with Jazz Chisholm Jr. Since we just talked about him. So Chisholm's projected to have a 2.46 average with 28 home runs, 78 RBIs, a 3.14 OBP, a 4.47 slug, a 3.27 a WOBA, and a 3.5 WAR. So how do you feel about those numbers? Let's just even start with the 28 home runs, 78 RBIs, and the OBP of 3.14.
28 home runs seems like a lot for Jazz. But I guess he could benefit in Yankee Stadium, playing a full season there. The thing I'm most looking forward to with Jazz is his ability to steal bases. To me, as long as he can get on base and steal a few extra bags, like I'm gonna be a happy camper. I don't need Jazz to be a power hitter. We have Judge, we have Stanton, we have Belly. Like, I'm okay if somebody just kind of takes a step back and hits some singles and doubles at this point.
Right.
But I mean, if it happens like that, I'll take it. Obviously, I'm not going to complain about it.
Right. And I was listening to a podcast from Pinstripe Territory, and they were going through the projections, and felt that the numbers overall, and we'll talk about some of the others, are a little bit under what they felt like what they should be. And with Jazz, I don't think that we had a great sample size of him last year. We know we want him around, and that he's going to really, he will continue to help the team. But I think Jazz actually has so much more in him that we haven't seen yet. He's never going to, like you said, he's never going to be the power hitter. And he has the speed, which we need. And I think that his hitting is going to go up. And some people are even saying that he has the potential to be a 30-30 player. And maybe especially if we get him back to second, it might not make a difference at all, because he'll just prove himself as somebody who could do both equally well. But let's see him in his natural position. And I just think that we're going to see, I'm in line with what the guys from Pinstripe Territory and other things that I've read, I think he's going to have a season this coming year better than the season last. So, but let me tell you something about the overall projections that I've been reading about and the show. It really is not boding well for the Yankees. It's really making us people view us and project us to be not much different than we were last year. And that's even with getting Goldschmidt and Fried. Of course, it doesn't include Bregman at this point, but it speaks to some of the things we've been talking about during this whole trade season. Anthony Volpe, for example, really not seeing the needle move much on him in the projections. So 241 average, 4.0 WAR, 19 home runs and 67 RBIs, and a 310 OBP, which is a few points down from Jazz's underpredicted numbers.
Yeah, so I've noticed that outside of the Bronx, like MLB fans do not like Anthony Volpe. I don't know what this kid did to upset them so much, but they constantly are trying to compare him to like seasoned veterans. And I do not think that's fair to Volpe. This will be his third season. And not for nothing, like, yes, did he struggle a little bit last season? But he showed up when it mattered the most, okay? And that's what I want people to remember. Volpe showed up in the playoffs and in the World Series when our captain was struggling, okay? Aaron Judge was nowhere to be found until Game 5 when he finally did something, and then he also dropped a ball. So anyway, outside of the Bronx, people don't like Anthony Volpe. So I strongly disagree with these numbers. I think Volpe is going to be a key piece of our 2025 season. As long as the Yankees find the right spot in the lineup for him and don't continue to move him around. Don't start him at leadoff and then move him to 7th and then move him to 5th and then move him to 9th. Figure it out from the beginning. Lineup construction is huge this season, okay? It's always been, but this season, I really need Aaron Boone to listen to me and not the front office. Lineup construction matters, okay? And also, put Volpe, same as Jazz, put Volpe where he can steal bases, okay? We did not allow Volpe to use his speed in 2024. And I think that's a big part of his game that we missed out on. So let him steal, let Jazz steal. If we have Dominguez on the roster, let him steal. Like, let these guys run. And you know what? It is absolutely criminal that Luis Rojas is still at third base for third base coach, because he's going to hurt us again. But just let him run.
Right. And I think Volpe, for those reasons, Volpe sat really well at the bottom of the lineup. And there's no chance in hell that I would want to see Chisholm or Volpe leading off. I know that there's a big gaping hole there and everyone has angst about it, but I do not want to see either one of them there for the reasons you just said. Mm-hmm. They need to be set up to have people behind them who can give them the opportunity to steal the bags. Can't always just rely on the pitcher having a brain fart and running on them. So they got to be strategic with the runners that could really steal the bases. And really the two we got are the first two that we just talked about. And Lou is saying he thinks that Volpe will be exactly the same. Okay, well, it's good. We need to balance ourselves out with pessimism. But the thing is with Volpe, this is a critical year because he came up as the shining star, right? And really, it could have been Peraza, but it was Volpe, and that got the shot. If he doesn't give us something year 3, then they need to trade him. And I know nobody wants to lose Volpe. He's very popular. We love the kid, but I think 3 years is enough of a trial. And if we're not seeing growth year to year, Mr. Moneybags, who wants to get a good deal, then you're going to have to think about his value. and when it's going to start to go down. And after 3 seasons, I think it becomes a question mark. I don't want to be having that conversation, and I feel bad that I even put it out into the universe. But I'm just saying this is a very crucial year for Volpe to break out. And yes, he really came out for us during the World Series. But we can't have those, lightning in a bottle moments. We need that consistently all the way through to even get to that point in the season.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a very important pivotal year, I think, for him in general. Um, and so Dominguez, let's talk about Dominguez for a second. So 2.5 WAR. And 326 OBP, 418 slugging, and average 249, 20 home runs, 70 RBIs. To me, that feels under. But I also have been the one saying we better manage our expectations about somebody we're already calling the Martian. What do you think about those numbers?
So I think how well Dominguez plays is going to depend on where they play him in the outfield. I truly do. Because it's going to be one of those things where if your defense is bad, it's going to affect your mentality and it's going to affect your offense. So as long as Dominguez starts spring training and stays in the position he's supposed to be in, whether it's left or center, and that's what he goes into opening day, I could see Dominguez having big numbers, to be completely honest with you. Oh, I'm probably going to catch a lot of heat for this. I think Dominguez could be your 30-30 guy. He has power. He can steal. And I know I'm like annoyingly optimistic, but I just think that he could be that 30-30 guy. And I would put him as our leadoff hitter, personally.
Okay. And Mazza's saying that he needs to prove he can hit major league pitching before because he didn't last year. But yeah, we absolutely want him to succeed. We're committed to him, and he's gotten hella hyped. So, he's already dubbed the Martian. But I guess I set a standard because Lou's saying he'll get 3 years like Volpe before we decide.
I mean, not for nothing. If you look at and I know we'll talk about it a little bit, but if you look at our international free agency class, we signed a few shortstops and we signed a few outfielders. So their replacements are already coming up. They're 16, 17 years old. So you never know what can happen in the future. But for the here and now, I wish these guys nothing but the best. And you know what? I sound completely different than I did last season. Having a few young guys on the team, maybe it's for the best this season. This could be the season that we see Volpe, Wells, and Dominguez really break out and make a difference. We have some veterans with good gloves, Bellinger and Goldschmidt now, who could really help them out. And we have, regular season Aaron Judge is the best player on the planet. And you have Giancarlo Stanton, who is our unsung hero, our true captain who doesn't wear the C on his chest. I think this could be the season that these three young guys all break out and have the season that we want them to have.
Right. And I'll get Stanton's numbers in a second too, but
they're gonna make me mad.
What?
So they're probably gonna make me mad.
We also have to think about the aging going on, right? And so Stanton is maybe we have one more season left in him, maybe 2 at the most. This season will be the tell. And Judge is still young, but look at let me tell you about his projections. Basically the summary is he's not moving much. 48 home runs, 117 RBIs, 272 average, 399 OBP, and 576 slug. So, I mean, we can't be mad at those projections, but they're, 48 home runs is uncomfortably close to what we just had. The 117 RBIs. So I would think that, are we saying I mean, the numbers are saying, and 7.2 WAR, by the way. So, is that what you would expect Aaron Judge to have this coming season? Sound low or sound high?
I mean, they sound average. I can't be upset at those numbers. So last year, Judge hit 58 home runs. 2022, he hit his 62, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a crazy number, right? Like, that is not something I expect him to do every season. As much as I would love to see him break his own record, he doesn't use steroids, right? He is a power hitter in a non-steroid era who is just happens to be a freaking unicorn. With that being said, I do think that he could hover between the 50 and 60 mark for home runs again this season, especially since he is having a baby. And I don't know what it is about athletes, but when they have babies, they have this super duper dad strength. Just look at Patrick Mahomes. Sorry, Lynn, but it's actually insane. But Judge's his career OBP is 604. Or I'm sorry, his career OBP is 406, and his career slugging is 604. So they're giving a pretty good average. And honestly, I would take those numbers from Judge if he showed up in October. Like,
yes,
you can be the same Judge every season because you're fantastic. But if you don't show up in October, it doesn't matter to me at that point.
I can't say no to anything about that, except for how dare you bring that name up. You take that back right now. So I'm probably going to have a nightmare that Mahomes is going to be on the Yankees next year. All right. So let's talk about Stanton and see how we feel about this.
Let me put my boxing gloves on.
1.2 WAR, 303 OBP, 331 OBPA, 473 slug, and a 228 average with 32 home runs and 79 RBIs.
I mean, they're giving him a higher WAR than he had in 2024. I can't. Okay, so I can't hate it because the thing about Stanton, and he's my guy, and I will defend him to the end of my life. Like, that is the one player right now that I would kill to get a World Series ring because I just think he's the guy that deserves it based on all the numbers he puts up in the regular season and in the postseason, the way he handles the press, the way he just handles himself. Like, he is the player that little kids should look up to, in my opinion. With that being said, Stanton's numbers are going to depend on the month of June. Will Stanton be healthy in June, or will he be on the bench in June? I would love to see a healthy Stanton from April through November. Figure out them skinny little legs, keep him healthy, and part of that has to do with our medical staff. We have probably one of the worst medical staffs in MLB. But with that being said, Stanton is chasing 500 home runs, and I don't want to see him retire until he gets that because my guy should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And for all of you Yankee haters out there, I don't care what you say. Giancarlo Stanton should be in the Hall of Fame. If he hits that 500 home run mark, and if he finally gets a World Series ring, he should be there.
100%.
And I will die on that hill.
100%. And for those reasons, I want to see him not DH as much. I mean, he is our, there's a spot on the bench that says DH and his cute little butt sits in it. But I want him to have a bit more in-season playing time, just to have more opportunities for that. Again, because of the aging, and we just don't know what we don't know, right? And we know postseason Stanton is where these numbers come from. And we also have to consider, can you imagine what those numbers would look like if he was an all-season player? So we have to factor that in as well. So let me close the projections by giving you a little poll. So of our currently 5 starters, who do you think is projected to have the lowest ERA?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Isn't it? It's sort of evil.
So I think, what is projected versus what I think will happen are two totally different things. I'm assuming the projections are Max Fried. But I think Clark Schmidt is coming back hard this season because he was our second best pitcher before he got injured. And if he can stay healthy, I think Clark Schmidt will be our best pitcher
Wow. So you'll get predictions with the projections right here on the upper deck. I don't mind that one bit. So you're absolutely right. So Fried is projected for a 3.36 ERA. I think second place is going to surprise everybody. It's Carlos Rodon. Carlos Rodon comes in with a 3.91 ERA. And then Schmidt is in third with a 3.92. And then after that, it's Cole with a 3.93, and then Heel for a 4.19. Those are the projections for 2025. Make sense to you?
So I'm assuming, and assuming, don't ever assume.
I know.
But I'm assuming that Cole's projections, that's not a word, projections are based off of last season where he was coming off an injury. Because if they were based off the season before when he won the Cy Young, we'd be having a different conversation. But we didn't see the same Garrett Cole in 2024, and that's not his fault. Shout out to him for saying something when he knew he was injured and not trying to play through it and making it worse, because not a lot of players do that. There are a lot of selfish and stubborn players who think that they have to play through their injury, and he didn't do that. So I'm assuming that's where those projections are coming from. I truly think this is how it's going to go, and this is no shade, no hate to anybody. I'm Carlos Rodon's biggest hater. Everyone knows this. I hope he proves me wrong, but I think this is how the order of how our pitchers will be. Schmidt, Cole, Fried, or Fried and Cole reverse, doesn't matter. Rodon, and then I think Heel is going to have a sophomore slump. I've talked about this before. He still struggles with location, and if he doesn't figure that out, I don't see him having this fantastic, amazing season. Now, it's a sophomore slump. A lot of players go through it, so I don't think that means anything for his future. But we'll see what happens. I think we have a great starting rotation overall, and I'm not super concerned about it. I'm more concerned about our infield and our left field than anything at this point.
Right, and I'm most all that, and I'm also more concerned about the pen than the starting rotation. I think we're stacked. And even with that, the highest ERA, from Heel, to all your points, I think that's going to be much lower than projected, I think. So looking forward to that.
Maza wants me to jump off a bridge. I did. Oh, sorry. I did see that. I did see that. And literally the day that I saw it, I said, I will jump off a bridge if that happens. 40-year-old Scherzer, who cannot help me in the big games. That's who we're looking at, but we want to get rid of Marcus Stroman. I'm sorry, Hal, but what are we doing? What are you on? Because that sounds like you're doing some things that maybe you shouldn't be doing. Maybe you're partaking in some illegal activities in the after hours, and you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, and seriously, we don't. Ciarra's taking a business trip to New Jersey. We don't want her on the George Washington Bridge. So
I'll be there in 3 weeks. Don't make me jump, Hal.
Okay, so let's get to prospects. So why don't you start off with the prospects?
Yeah, so the one guy that I really, really, really wanted to focus on today, and I told you guys last week, 2025 Yankee content creator Ciarra is going to learn more about prospects, be better at stats, all that good stuff, right? And not just yap. I wanted to focus on Michael Arias. So we brought him up last week because the Yankees acquired him on the 15th of January from the Cubbies. But I didn't know his complete background. I'm not even going to lie to you guys. So he got signed by the Blue Jays when he was 17 years old back in 2018 for $10,000 as a shortstop, not as a pitcher. That kind of blew my mind. He struggled in the Blue Jays system. They couldn't figure it out with him. He got picked up by the Cubs. The Cubs turned him into a pitcher, which is just insane to me. I guess it's not unheard of, but it's just kind of crazy. Anyways, with that being said, 2022 and 2023, my guy was struggling, okay? He went 1 for 14 in 32 starts. But in 2024, he figured it out. So maybe this is a Matt Blake project that we can really, really count on. He was promoted to Double-A Tennessee in 2024. He went 3-0 with a 3.75 ERA. And then he was promoted up to Triple-A. He finished the season with a 6-2 record, 4.77 ERA, through 60 and a third inning, 72 strikeouts, 48 walks. Now, maybe the numbers aren't the sexiest, but they obviously have improved over time. He's only 23 years old, so he's still very young. And he obviously didn't come up as a pitcher. So this is a guy that I could see Matt Blake working that Matt Blake relief magic he has on and making him a good addition to the bullpen. Now, the only thing through my research I found is that he may need some help mechanically. So he has a little bit of a leg kick and a semi-side arm release. And those two things like together can cause some mechanical issues. However, on the upside, he does have an 88 mile per hour changeup. So he can make some hitters eat some dirt, if you know what I mean. Right. And he's listed 29 out of 30th for our top prospects in the Yankee system.
I'm not mad at any of that. That's for sure. And all he needs is a little time with Blake, and we got something really good there. Do you think Blake could make him a lefty?
I mean, he already went from shortstop to pitcher. Why not, right? Let's make him ambidextrous.
But speaking of lefties, you got some stuff on Griffin Herring.
Yeah, so Griffin Herring, I don't know if we will see anything from him this season. He's going to be in low A. We drafted him this past 2024 out of LSU. He's a left-hander. He's 21, and he's 27th out of our 30 prospects. So that is someone I am going to keep an eye on this season and his development because we are so hard-pressed for left-handed pitchers, and it's always been an issue, it seems like. So Griffin Herring will be on my radar all of 2025. I'm going to track his progress, and at the end of the season, I'm going to give a full report on where he's at and my projections for him for next season.
Okay, we're taking note of that, and we'll have that as part of our end of season recap before the next hot stove season. So this is the ranking of acquisition of prospects from MILB Pipeline. So you see everyone on the top row, right? So we got the Cubs and Seattle with the highest numbers. And then, just to summarize, go all the way down and you see who's at the bottom. And that does look like a New York Yankee logo there. So, and granted, this was a few days ago, but again, it's, they're not even building the farm in the way that we want to. I mean, until the two you just mentioned. So I just thought I would throw that out there because why not?
I mean, I would think that the reason the Yankees aren't like building the farm at this point is because we just signed a ton of international free agents who were like 16, 17 years old. Manny Cerdano is the biggest name on that list because he is the youngest in the entire class of international free agents. But he's a five tool kid, and they're saying like he's the one that we need to look out for in the next few years. Now, like I said, he's only 16, so he's probably still 6 years away from even being in AAA. But who knows? I mean, we're keeping our eye on George Lombard, who's like 12 years old at this point. So just throw him in the mix too.
Absolutely. And didn't we get Dominguez around the same age?
Yes. So we tend to get kids out of the Dominican Republic and Venezuela at 16, 17 years old. And I won't go on a rant because I did it last week, but that's why I also think there needs to be a different way to do the international free agency draft because it's completely different than the Dodgers getting Sasaki, who's fully developed at 23 years old, and him getting to pick where he goes. So, but I digress.
Wow. So FJ, going back to Scherzer for a minute, many teams were looking at him as just due diligence. It's doubtful the Yankees are serious.
Good,
so
because
feel better. Thank you, FJ, for that. I need my partner.
Yeah, the Yankees would have my death on their hands.
Okay, and so we're gonna have a quick what do we need still, and who do you want? So who do you want to see come up for spring training from the farm, Ciarra?
I still want to see Chase Hampton and Jorbit Vivas, Everson Pereira, he got injured. So I would love to see a fully healthy Everson Pereira. And you know what? Not for nothing, give Oswald Peraza the shot. Like, I know I said he hasn't proven himself MLB at bat, because he's had over 100 at bats, but what do I know? I'm just a girl. Bring him up. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah. For me, I would like to see Rock Riggio up, who's the second baseman. I don't remember how many A's are next to his name, but he's the second baseman, and his slugging average was 3.65 last season. So he's got power numbers, power bat, and apparently he could really shine in a run-friendly environment. And he also gets on base a lot by walks. So it seems like he's a good fit for Yankee Stadium. I would give him a look at. I think the obvious invites will be Spencer Jones and Ben Rice, as they should be. And Ben Rice, we've talked about on several shows now, and I've been guests on. I think they still need that backup catcher. I don't know. I don't care what they think. They think they don't, but they do. And so I think they should try Ben Rice out at catcher and first base during spring training. What do you think about Henry Lalane getting an invite?
I know Lalane is.
Is it Lalane? I like that. That makes for better calls. Good. Lalane. Whoa.
I know he's a popular name amongst other creators, along with Brock Selvage, and they're both left-handed pitchers. So, like, hey, at this point, I would bring anybody to spring training and give them a shot. We have so many holes to fill that let's just line them up and keep them going.
Chat's really quiet about who they would want. And you already mentioned Chase Hampton. I think you did, right?
Chase Hampton is the guy that I'm pushing for from the
right.
farm system.
Right. So, but they definitely need to take advantage and get these guys up here, to give them a real shot. And, especially Pereira, like you said, and Peraza. He's on, it's obvious he's on the 40-man, but, let's really put them through the ropes and, set them up with the real opposition teams when the games start, and really see what they got, because, if not, then we have to be nice to them and let them go. If you love something, set it free sometimes. Yeah. So before we wrap, don't forget to hit the likes for us. We're kind of likable, don't you think? We'd really appreciate that. But I do want to share a little bit of exciting news about something that's coming up. Your girls here from the Upper Deck are creating a new podcast that's going to be coming your way in February. And joining us will be our friend Spencer, who I know just about everyone in the chat knows Spencer. You're all familiar with our Spencer Trivia Question of the Week, which will be back for next season. And this show is going to be a show that with each episode, we're going to highlight a Yankee legend and also talk about what happened what was going on in Yankee history at that time and MLB in general. And we're going to go all over the map, because we feel it's time to lift up the history of the game. We really are invested in the newer generations understanding why we think we're such a big deal, and turn some casuals into fuller, rounded fans. And we also want to take a look at comparing those great moments in time, those controversial moments in time, and get a take on how that might relate to today's game, or what would happen in today's game if that happened, if that happened now. And I know Ciarra is going to be especially expert at that. And of course, Spencer will end each of those episodes with a trivia question. And we're looking to do it every second and fourth Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and it will be live. So more to come about that. And we're just really excited to bring more content to the channel. And so the upper deck is throwing our hat into that ring, and we hope to see you there. And so more to come. We'll give you more details before we launch on February 13th. Ciarra, any closing words?
Yeah, I'm super excited for our new addition to the channel. 2025 is the season. 2025 is the year of female sport content creators, right? There are so many men out there that do sports content, especially when it comes to baseball. It's very rare for women to be out here doing this, and we go live, we put ourselves out there for criticism, for love, for all of that. And I'm so looking forward to speaking Yankees history and maybe learning some history myself and teaching some people some history. I think it'll be a great segment, and I can't wait to take that journey with you.
Yes. And will you teach me how to make a heart correctly?
Yes.
I don't know what this is that I do.
I learned it from my girl, Taylor Swift.
Yeah, so we're super excited. And yes, to everything Ciarra said, super proud of that. And when the show launched several years ago, we were the first all-female Yankee podcast that we could find anywhere. So props to Uncle Tats for making us happen. And oh, Maza, thank you so much. What a nice compliment. And so thank you, Maza. You're a real friend. Listen, okay, now we're going to pivot to football. And that bridge jumping thing kind of relates here for me. So if you have any love for me, root for the Bills. Root for the Bills. It's time to dethrone Mahomes. It is absolutely time. The Bills are built for it, and it needs to happen for them. Those other two teams, Phillies and the Phillies, like they're a baseball team. They are, but no, we're talking football. Eagles versus Commanders. Evan, I love you. Okay, I gotta go, Bills. Maz's saying a Bills Commander Super Bowl. That's what I'm here for. Yep. And you love
Rematch.
A Cinderella story. Go for those underdogs. The two underdogs in the Super Bowl. What a story that's going to be. The press would eat that alive. So hopefully we'll make it happen. But either way, enjoy the games. Thank you for being with us. We're so thankful for our friends that are here every week. And we'll see you right here on the upper deck, where you'll always have that reserved seat with us Sundays at 11 live. Have a great day, everybody.